Commander Allison Wright leaned forward in her chair as the Pathfinder slowed its approach to Taros 4. The planet hung in space like a faded blue marble, its surface cracked with dried ocean beds. This world had once been home to an advanced civilization, but now it was silent, dead for at least 50,000 years according to their scans. "Prepare landing teams," she ordered, her voice calm despite the excitement she felt. After 3 years of space exploration, this was their first encounter with clear evidence of an alien civilization. Dr. Peter Jackson stood at the science station, his fingers moving quickly over the screens. "I'm detecting large underground structures, Commander, possible bunkers or archives." "Any signs of what killed them?" Allison asked. "None visible from orbit," Peter replied, running a hand through his short brown hair. "But the atmospheric analysis shows traces of weapons discharge. There was a war here, a big one." The bridge crew worked in focused silence as the ship settled into orbit. Lieutenant Frank Miller at navigation plotted 3 possible landing sites, while Communications Officer Diane Lopez monitored for any signals from the dead world. 6 hours. Later, Allison led the first team down to the surface. The landing craft touched down in what once had been a city center. Now it was just rubble and dust under an orange sky. "Air's breathable but thin," Peter said, checking his equipment. "We won't need full suits, but keep your breathers handy." The team of 12 spread out, scanning the ruins. Allison felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's cool temperature. Something had wiped out an entire species here. The silence felt heavy like a warning. "Commander," one of the junior officers called from ahead. "We found an entrance." They gathered around a large metal door set into the ground, partially hidden by debris. The symbols carved into it were unlike anything in their databases. "Can we open it?" Allison asked. Peter studied the door. "I think so. The power's long dead, but we can use the portable hydraulics." It took 3 hours of careful work before the ancient door groaned open. Stale air rushed out, carrying the scent of dust and metal. Allison switched on her light and led the way down. The stairs descended deep below the surface. After nearly 200 steps, they emerged into a vast chamber that stretched beyond the reach of their lights. "This is incredible," Peter whispered. The walls were lined with what looked like data storage units, thousands of them reaching from floor to ceiling. This must be their archive. Their entire civilization's knowledge could be stored here. Allison ordered the team to set up portable generators and lights. As the chamber brightened, they saw the true scale of the archive. It would take years to properly study everything. "Here." Peter connected their translation computers to one of the storage units. "Let's see if we can access any of this." To everyone's surprise, the ancient systems powered up. Screens flickered to life, showing symbols and images. The translation program began working through the alien language. "Their systems were built to last," Diane said, impressed. "They wanted someone to find this." After several hours, Peter called Allison over. "Commander, I'm finding something strange. There's a warning that keeps appearing in different files." "What kind of warning?" Allison asked. "It's about Earth," Peter said, his expression confused. "They mention a blue world in system S3942. That's our solar system, from their reference point." Allison frowned. "What does it say about Earth?" Peter adjusted the translation. "It repeats in multiple files. It says, avoid the blue world in system S3942. They are not the predators. They guard something worse." Silence fell over the team. They had come looking for knowledge about an extinct alien race. Instead, they had found a warning about their own home. 2 weeks after their discovery on Taros 4, the Pathfinder arrived. At the Keltra system, the crew had spent the journey studying the Tarosi archives, learning about a species that had reached the stars 5,000 years before humans had even built their first cities. Commander Allison Wright hadn't slept well since they left Taros. The warning about Earth bothered her more than she wanted to admit. "Approaching Keltra now, Commander," Lieutenant Frank Miller said from his station. The main screen showed a dusty red planet with no oceans. Scans indicated it had once been green and full of life, but something had changed its climate rapidly. "Any signs of the Keltran civilization?" Allison asked. Dr. Peter Jackson looked up from his science console. Yes, but not what we expected. There's only one structure visible from orbit. It appears to be a monument of some kind. Allison studied the image. A single, massive tower rose from the planet's surface, standing alone in a desert that stretched for thousands of miles in all directions. "Prepare a landing team," she ordered. 4 hours later, Allison stepped onto the red soil of Keltra. The air was thin, but breathable. The monument loomed above them, at least 500 feet tall and made of a black metal that showed no signs of aging despite the harsh winds. Lieutenant Frank Miller ran his hand along the smooth surface. "This material isn't in our database. Nothing we know of could last this long without erosion." "They built it to last forever," Peter said. "Look at these markings." The tower was covered in symbols, different from those they found on Taros 4, but clearly another language. Peter connected his translation device and began scanning. "This could take days," Diane Lopez said, looking up at the immense structure. "Not necessarily," Peter replied. "The patterns repeat. I think this is some kind of message meant to be understood by anyone who finds it." The team set up a base camp near the monument. As night fell, the stars shone with incredible brightness in Keltra's thin atmosphere. Allison sat outside her tent, looking up at them and wondering how many dead civilizations might be out there among the lights. The next morning, Peter woke the team with news. "I've got it," he said, excitement and worry mixing in his voice. "The translation is rough, but I understand the message." They gathered around as he explained. The Keltrans were once a powerful empire spanning 20-star systems. According to this monument, they encountered Earth about 30,000 years ago. "What happened?" Allison asked. Peter's face grew serious. "The monument says, 'The bipeds of the third planet are fierce warriors, but they are merely guardians. What sleeps beneath their oceans would consume the stars themselves if awakened.'" A heavy silence fell over the group. "That's the second warning about Earth," Frank said finally, "from a completely different species." "There's more," Peter continued. "The Keltrans sent 3 expeditions to Earth. The first 2 disappeared. The third returned, but brought something back with them. The records say their people began to change, to turn on each other. Within 50 years of their contact with Earth, their entire civilization collapsed." Allison paced around the base of the monument. "So they built this as a warning to others?" "Yes," Peter nodded. "And they placed similar monuments on 12 other worlds. They used the last of their resources to warn the galaxy about Earth." Diane looked troubled. "But humans have lived on Earth for thousands of years. If something dangerous is there, why hasn't it affected us?" "That's the question," Allison said quietly. "The Tarosi called humans guardians. The Keltrans called us fierce warriors, but also said we're merely guardians. What if we're immune to whatever is on Earth? What if we've been containing it without even knowing?" Frank stared at the red horizon. "Or what if this thing, whatever it is just waiting, using us somehow?" Allison made her decision. "We need to find more evidence. If 2 civilizations went extinct after contacting Earth, there might be others." As they packed up their equipment, Allison took one last look at the tower. It would stand for thousands more years, silently warning anyone who came to this dead world about the danger of the blue planet called Earth. "There's more," Peter said, his voice quieter now. "Records show they sent an expedition to our solar system about 52,000 years ago. Shortly after that, their civilization began to collapse." Allison stared at the ancient screens. "Download everything. We need to understand what they found on Earth that frightened them so badly." Outside, the wind picked up, sending dust swirling around the Pathfinder like tiny ghosts, as if the dead world itself was trying to warn them to turn back. Over the next 3 months, the Pathfinder visited 5 more dead worlds. Each time, they found the same pattern. A civilization had reached the stars, encountered Earth, and then disappeared. Each left behind warnings about the blue planet. On the bridge of the Pathfinder, Commander Allison Wright called a meeting of her senior staff. The mood was tense as everyone took their seats in the conference room. "Dr. Jackson, please share your findings," Allison said. Peter stood and activated the main screen. Images of 7 different alien writing systems appeared. "We have now found warnings about Earth from 7 distinct civilizations," he began. "But there's more. Based on the star charts we've recovered, I've identified 10 more systems with evidence of extinct civilizations. All of them had contact with Earth before they disappeared." 17 civilizations? Frank asked. "All gone after finding Earth?" "Yes," Peter nodded. "And they span more than 100,000 years of history. The oldest we've found so far was the Marian Empire, which collapsed about 120,000 years ago." Dr. Susan Clark, the ship's historian, spoke up. "I've been analyzing the timelines. Each civilization made contact with Earth, then began to collapse within 50 to 100 years afterward. But here's the interesting part. None of them ever attacked Earth. In fact, they all seem to have avoided it after their initial expeditions." "What were they afraid of?" Diane asked. Susan pulled up a new image on the screen. It showed a timeline with markers for each civilization's fall. "Look at this pattern," she said. "These civilizations didn't just die out gradually. According to the records we found, they experienced similar symptoms: social breakdown, violent behavior, mass hallucinations. Some records mention people changing or becoming something else." Allison stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "So something on Earth affected these aliens, but not humans. We need to understand what makes humans different." "I have a theory," Peter said quietly. "These civilizations weren't destroyed by humans. I think they were destroyed by something they accidentally awakened on Earth. Something that humans have been containing all along." The room fell silent. "Think about it," Peter continued. "The warnings all say humans are guardians or wardens. Not that we're dangerous by ourselves, but that we're guarding something worse. What if early humans somehow trapped this thing? What if we evolved alongside it, developing a natural immunity? That would explain why it hasn't affected us." Susan nodded slowly. "But what could be so powerful that it destroyed 17 advanced civilizations?" Frank looked troubled. "And if we're its guards, do we even know what we're guarding? Or are we just living on top of some ancient prison without realizing it?" Allison made her decision. "We need to go back to Earth with what we've learned. This isn't just a scientific discovery anymore. This could be the biggest threat humanity has never known about." "What will we tell Earth Command?" Diane asked. "That something dangerous might be hiding on our own planet? That we've been its unknowing jailers for thousands of years?" "We tell them exactly what we found," Allison said firmly. 17 extinct civilizations all left warnings about Earth. Whatever they found there was powerful enough to destroy them all. We need to find out what it is before another alien species comes looking for us." The Pathfinder docked at Earth's orbital station 3 weeks later. Commander Allison Wright looked through the viewport at the blue planet below. It seemed peaceful, beautiful. Nothing like the subject of 17 alien warnings. "Ready for the briefing?" Peter asked, joining her by the window. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied. "How do you tell Earth's leaders that our planet might be a prison for something that destroyed entire civilizations?" The meeting room at United Earth Command was large and formal. Admiral Richard Donovan, a man with gray hair and serious eyes, sat at the head of the table with 5 other high-ranking officials. "Commander Wright," Admiral Donovan began, "your message was disturbing to say the least. You claim to have evidence that Earth is dangerous to other species." Allison stood tall. "Yes, sir. We found warnings about Earth from 17 extinct civilizations spanning over 100,000 years. Each species made contact with Earth before their civilization collapsed." She nodded to Peter, who displayed images from their journey. The alien writings, the monuments, the dead worlds. "Their warnings all point to the same thing," Peter explained. "They didn't fear humans. They feared something on Earth that humans are somehow guarding or containing." One of the officials, a woman named General Laura Bennett, looked skeptical. "So aliens visited Earth thousands of years ago? Where's the evidence of that on our planet?" Actually, Dr. Susan Clark spoke up, there are many Earth myths about visitors from the stars, ancient structures that seem too advanced for their time, and there are stories in nearly every culture about monsters beneath the oceans or beings that invade dreams. Admiral Donovan frowned. That's hardly scientific evidence. No, Allison agreed. But the consistency of the alien warnings is, they all mention something beneath Earth's oceans. Something that affects minds. Something that humans are immune to or have contained. The room fell quiet as the officials looked at each other. What exactly are you proposing? Admiral Donovan asked finally. An expedition, Allison replied, to the deepest parts of the ocean. The alien warnings all point to the same region, what we call the Mariana Trench. Dr. Karen Martinez, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. I've been studying unusual patterns in the Mariana Trench for years. Electromagnetic disturbances that don't match any known natural phenomenon. I always thought they were related to geological activity, but now I'm not so sure. Admiral Donovan looked troubled. You're suggesting we mount an expedition to find something that might be incredibly dangerous? Sir, Allison said firmly, whatever is down there has been there for thousands of years. If humans really are its guardians, don't we deserve to know what we're guarding? And if these alien warnings are true, we need to understand the threat before another alien species makes contact with Earth. The meeting lasted for hours. Many questions were asked. Evidence was examined. Finally, Admiral Donovan made his decision. This will be classified at the highest level, he said. Commander Wright, your crew will be sworn to secrecy. Dr. Martinez will join your team as our deep-sea expert. You'll have access to our most advanced submersibles. As they left the meeting, Allison felt a weight on her shoulders. She had convinced Earth Command to take the threat seriously, but now they had to face whatever was hiding in the depths. What do you think we'll find down there? Peter asked as they walked back to their quarters. I don't know, Allison admitted, but 17 civilizations were destroyed after finding it. Whatever it is, it's powerful enough to drive entire species to extinction. That night, Allison dreamed of dark water and something ancient stirring in the depths. In her dream, it noticed her for the first time and reached out toward her mind. She woke up gasping, the feeling of alien thought still lingering in her mind. As she caught her breath, she wondered if it was just a nightmare or something more. Something reaching out to her from the deep. As the Pathfinder changed course for Earth, Peter worked late into the night, trying to piece together more details from their discoveries. The warnings from each civilization were similar, but had small differences. When he arranged them in chronological order, they began to tell a story. The oldest warning spoke of the sleeper beneath the waves. Later ones mentioned the mind that corrupts. The most recent referred to the prisoner of the deep that speaks through dreams. Whatever was on Earth, it had been there for a very long time. And every species that found it had paid with their existence. Every species except humans. Peter couldn't help but wonder, were humans really immune, or had they just not awakened it fully yet? The research vessel Ocean Guardian floated above the Mariana Trench, its deck busy with activity. 3 sleek submersibles were being prepared for the deepest dive humans had ever attempted. Commander Allison Wright checked her gear one last time. Beside her, Dr. Karen Martinez explained the dive plan to Dr. Peter Jackson and Security Officer Alan Phillips. We'll descend in stages, Karen said. The pressure at that depth would crush normal submarines, but these submersibles use new materials that can withstand it. How deep are we going? Alan asked, his hand resting on his sidearm. United Earth Command had insisted that the team include military protection. Over 36,000 feet, Karen replied. Based on my readings, the strongest electromagnetic signals come from about 1,000 feet deeper than any human has gone before. Peter looked nervous but excited. And that matches where the alien warnings pointed to? Allison nodded. All 17 civilizations mentioned the same region. They described it as the deepest dark, or the bottom of the world ocean. It has to be the Mariana Trench. An hour later, the 3 submersibles began their descent into darkness. Allison and Karen took the lead vessel, with Peter and Alan in the second and a backup team in the third. As they passed 20,000 feet, the radio crackled with Alan's voice. "Commander, I've been studying historical records like you asked. I found something interesting about ancient human cultures." "Go ahead," Allison said, watching as strange, deep-sea creatures floated past their lights. Cave paintings from 30,000 years ago show figures that match descriptions from the alien warnings. Early humans drew pictures of what they called the deep ones, or those who speak in dreams. The paintings appear on every continent. Karen looked surprised. "So ancient humans knew about whatever is down here?" "It seems that way," Alan continued. "And here's the strange part. The paintings always show humans standing between the deep ones and the stars, like they're protecting the stars from what's below." Allison felt a chill. Just like the alien warning said, humans are guardians, but not by choice. We evolved to be immune to whatever influences these things have. The submersibles continued deeper. At 30,000 feet, their lights revealed something unexpected. "There's a structure ahead," Karen said, her voice filled with disbelief. It was a massive wall, stretching beyond their lights in both directions, made of a black material similar to what they had seen on Keltra. It curved inward, forming what appeared to be a giant dome. "This shouldn't be possible," Karen whispered. "Human technology couldn't build something like this at this depth, not even today." "I don't think humans built it," Peter's voice came through the radio. "Look at the design. It's similar to the monument on Keltra." As they moved along the wall, they found an opening large enough for their submersibles to enter. Inside was a vast chamber, somehow dry despite being at the bottom of the ocean. "The water stops at the entrance," Karen said in amazement. "Some kind of force field." They docked the submersibles and stepped into the chamber. Their lights revealed a space larger than a football stadium, with strange machinery built into the walls. In the center was a pool of what looked like black liquid. Alan studied the walls. "These markings are a mix of symbols. Some match what we found on the alien worlds, but others look much older." Peter approached one section of wall covered in images. "These tell a story," he said slowly. "I think this shows what happened." The images showed star-shaped beings arriving on Earth when it was young, then shapes that might be early humans fighting against them. Finally, the star beings contain the black pool rippled again. Allison felt a strange pressure in her head, like someone pushing against her thoughts. "Everyone back to the submersibles," she ordered. The team began moving, but Peter stayed near the pool, staring at it. "Peter," Allison called, "we need to go." He didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the dark liquid, which now moved like it was alive. Alan grabbed Peter's arm. "Something's wrong with him." Peter turned to them slowly. His eyes looked normal, but his voice sounded strange, as if someone else was speaking through him. "It's awake, it knows we're here." Suddenly, a violent shaking rocked the chamber. Karen checked her equipment. "The third submersible is sending out strong vibrations. The backup team must have activated something by mistake." Over the radio, panicked voices from the third submersible reported that their controls had malfunctioned. The vibrations grew stronger, and cracks appeared in the ancient walls around them. "The containment system is failing," Karen said, pointing to sections of the wall where the strange machinery was shutting down. "Those vibrations are at exactly the right frequency to disrupt it." Peter collapsed to his knees, holding his head. "I can hear it," he gasped. "It's trying to get in my mind." Alan helped Peter toward their submersible while Allison tried to contact the third vessel. "Stop all engines immediately, you're damaging the structure." But it was too late. With a loud cracking sound, part of the wall collapsed. The black pool began to expand, reaching out like fingers across the floor. "Get to the submersibles now," Allison shouted. They barely made it back to their vessels as more of the structure failed. As they pulled away from the dock, Karen pointed to the third submersible. Its crew moved stiffly like puppets as they deliberately crashed their vessel into another section of wall. "They're not in control anymore," Karen said quietly. "Something else is." As they escaped the chamber, the ocean rushed in behind them, but the black liquid didn't mix with the water. It moved through it like a living thing. During the ascent, Peter slowly recovered. It was in my head, he explained, his voice shaky. But it couldn't take control like it did with the other team. It's not physical, at least not entirely. It's a consciousness, an intelligence. What did it want? Allison asked. Freedom, Peter said. It's been imprisoned here for millions of years. It showed me images of what happened. It came from another dimension, another reality. It feeds on consciousness, on intelligent minds. The more advanced the mind, the more it can use it. Karen looked thoughtful. That explains why the alien civilizations collapsed after contact with Earth. This entity reached out to them psychically, corrupted them, used them. But not humans, Alan added. We evolved alongside it, developed a natural resistance. Peter nodded. Early humans somehow helped trap it here. Maybe they didn't understand what they were doing, but over time our species became its jailers. We're the only ones who can resist its influence. As they rose toward the surface, Allison's radio picked up a disturbing message from the ocean. Guardian above. The research vessel had lost contact with 3 crew members who were now trying to sabotage the ship. It's reaching out, Peter warned. Even from the depths, it can touch minds that aren't protected. It's trying to free itself. Allison made a difficult decision. We need to collapse the entrance to the chamber. Bury it deeper. That won't hold it forever, Karen warned. The containment system is already failing. Now that it's active, it will keep trying to escape. The submersibles finally broke the surface. On the deck of the Ocean Guardian, security officers had restrained the affected crew members, who fought and screamed in languages no human had ever spoken. What have we awakened? Alan asked, watching the disturbed crew members. Something that 17 alien civilizations couldn't stop, Allison replied. And now it knows we're here, in what looked like the chamber they were standing in. This is a prison, Allison realized, built millions of years ago. And somehow, early humans helped trap something here. As they explored further, Alan found more recent markings. These are human, he said. Egyptian, Mayan, Chinese, Greek, humans from all over the world came here over thousands of years. To maintain the prison, Karen suggested. Maybe that's why humans are immune. We evolved specifically to guard this place. Suddenly, the black pool in the center began to ripple. A faint whisper seemed to fill their minds, like distant voices calling. Back at United Earth Command, Admiral Donovan listened in silence as Allison explained what they had found. The room was tense. 4 days had passed since they returned from the Mariana Trench. Let me make sure I understand, Admiral Donovan said finally. There is an ancient entity imprisoned beneath our ocean. It can control minds. It destroyed 17 alien civilizations, and now it's trying to escape. Yes, sir, Allison said. The 3 crew members it affected are still unconscious. Our doctors can't explain it. Dr. Karen Martinez displayed images from their dive. The containment system is millions of years old. It was failing even before our submersible damaged it further. We need to act quickly. Peter had been quiet until now. Since their return, he had spent most of his time going through the alien records they had gathered. I've pieced together more of the story, he said. The entity arrived on Earth about 5 million years ago. It came through what the aliens called a thin place between dimensions. The earliest proto-humans encountered it, Peter continued. It should have destroyed them, but somehow they were different. Their minds were simple but resistant to its influence. They couldn't be controlled. Because we evolved on Earth, Karen suggested. Whatever energy or field this thing gives off, our brains developed to block it. Peter nodded. Later, more advanced aliens came to Earth. They had the technology to trap the entity, but they couldn't get close to it without being controlled. So they worked with early humans, who built the prison following the aliens' designs. Where are these helpful aliens now? Admiral Donovan asked. Gone, Peter said simply. They left Earth once the prison was built, but they knew the entity would try to escape, so they made humans the guardians. Without asking us, Alan muttered. They didn't have a choice, Peter replied. We were the only species that could resist it, and over time, as other alien races found Earth, the entity would reach out to them, try to use them to free itself. That's why they all collapsed, Allison said. It drove them insane, turned them against each other. Every civilization that came near Earth was destroyed when this thing touched their minds. Except humans, Karen added. We've been its jailers for millions of years without even knowing it. Admiral Donovan stood and walked to the window, looking out at the ocean in the distance. So what happens now? How do we stop it? The old containment system is failing, Karen explained, but we might be able to build a new one. The alien technology was advanced, but now we understand how it works. We would need to combine human resistance with technology, Peter said. The entity can't control human minds directly, but it can influence us through dreams, through our subconscious. That's why the ancient humans kept visiting the prison, to reinforce the containment. Allison stepped forward. Admiral, this isn't just about Earth anymore. If this entity escapes, it could spread across the galaxy. Every alien civilization it encounters would be destroyed or controlled. We need to strengthen the prison. How? Admiral Donovan asked. A new mission, Allison replied. With proper equipment and a larger team, we need to rebuild the containment system using what we've learned from the alien records and our own technology. As they discussed plans for the mission, an aide rushed into the room. Admiral, we're getting reports of unusual behavior around the world, he said urgently. People having the same nightmares, strange events near coastal areas. And we've detected movement in the Mariana Trench. Karen looked alarmed. It's happening faster than I expected. The entity is reaching out, trying to influence any mind it can touch. Why now? Alan asked. It's been contained for millions of years. Because now it knows we're here. P5 massive ships hovered above the Mariana Trench, the largest human fleet ever assembled for a single mission. Hundreds of people worked around the clock, building a new containment system using technology adapted from the alien records. Commander Allison Wright watched from the bridge of the lead ship, the Guardian. In just 6 days, they had created something that should have taken years. The threat to all life had united humanity in a way nothing else could. How's it looking? She asked Karen, who was monitoring the deep-sea work. The new containment field is almost ready, Karen replied. Peter's team is connecting the power systems now. The plan was both simple and incredibly complex. They would use human-operated machinery to rebuild the failing prison. The entity couldn't directly control human minds, giving them an advantage that the aliens never had. Reports coming in from around the world, Alan said, joining them. The nightmares are spreading. More people are falling into comas. It's getting stronger as the old containment weakens. Allison nodded grimly. What about the team down there? They're holding up, Karen said. Being human gives them protection, but even we aren't completely immune. The closer they get to the entity, the harder it pushes against their minds. Brahma radio crackled with Peter's voice from the depths. Commander, we're ready to activate the new containment field. But there's a problem. The power system needs to be started manually from inside the chamber. Allison felt her heart sink. That means someone has to get close to the entity. Yes, Peter confirmed. Someone needs to reach the central console and enter the activation code. Once it's running, the new field will be stronger than the original. It should hold for another 1,000,000 years. I'll go, Allison said without hesitation. Admiral Donovan, who had been listening, stepped forward. Commander, we can't risk losing you. With respect, sir, I've been exposed to the entity before. I have some resistance to it. And this is my mission. After a tense discussion, the Admiral reluctantly agreed. An hour later, Allison descended in a special submersible designed for this moment. It carried the final piece of the containment system, a power core based on technology found in the alien archives. As she reached the chamber, she could see the new containment field partly in place. The black pool had grown, covering half the chamber floor. It moved like it was alive, reaching tentacles of darkness toward the workers. I'm going in, she told the team. Once I activate the core, get out immediately. Allison stepped from the submersible, carrying the power core. The moment her feet touched the floor, she felt the entity pushing against her mind. It showed her visions of power, of freedom, of the stars. "Get out of my head," she whispered, fighting against its influence. Step by step, she moved toward the central console. The entity grew more desperate, its mental attacks more intense. It showed her visions of her own death, of her team's destruction. Then it changed tactics, offering her knowledge beyond human understanding. With a final effort, Allison reached the console and connected the power core. The entity's mental screams filled her mind as she entered the activation code. Bright blue. Energy surged through the new containment system. The black pool writhed and contracted as the field strengthened around it. Allison stumbled back to her submersible, her head pounding but her mind still her own. As the submersible rose toward the surface, Admiral Donovan's voice came over the radio. "Commander, status report." "Mission accomplished, sir," Allison replied. "The new containment field is active. The entity is secure." 1 month later, Allison stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder once more. The ship had been recommissioned with a new purpose: to visit the worlds of the extinct civilizations and gather more information about the entity. "We're receiving a transmission," Diane reported. "It's coming from the edge of our solar system." The message appeared on the main screen. It was from an alien ship approaching Earth. They were coming to study the strange blue planet that all their ancient texts warned about. "Should we warn them?" Frank asked. Allison considered for a moment. "No. We'll meet them. We'll explain what we're guarding and why. Humanity has a new role now. We're not just explorers anymore. We're the wardens of something that threatens the entire galaxy." As the Pathfinder prepared to meet the alien ship, Allison looked out at the stars. For millions of years, humanity had unknowingly protected the galaxy. Now they would do it with purpose, with knowledge, and with determination. The aliens would learn what every dead civilization had discovered too late. Earth was not to be feared for its humans. Humans were to be respected as the guardians of something far worse, Eater said quietly. "It knows we're its guardians and it wants to be free." Admiral Donovan's face was grim. "How long do we have?" "Days," Karen replied. "Maybe a week before the containment fails completely." Allison met the Admiral's eyes. "Sir, humanity has been protecting the galaxy from this thing without knowing it. Now we need to do it deliberately."